I'm just reviewing what you have to do to install a car stereo in your car. I can't really go over all the mounting into the dash because everything is different. On my Toyota Tacoma 1998, it's pretty simple. You can just take the console out and install it. Some cars are really hard, and I can't really go over all the things, but the one thing that they all have in common is you have to take the wiring looms and match them up, because all the cars have different types of sockets that they have to plug into. So when you buy your stereo, you should get the kit that comes with it for your brand and model of car. So what you have to do though is you have to connect the two together. This is the one that plugs into the stereo back, which is a Sony here, and these are the ones that plug into the car, which goes into Toyota Tacoma, which they're pretty much all the same. The reason you have two is because one is for the back speakers, which this is an SR5, so it has back speakers. Some cars don't have back speakers included, so these are for the front and for the power and all that stuff like that. So you're going to have to connect these two together, and there's a couple of ways that you want to do that, and you do not want to just twist the wires together and put masking tape or electrical tape over them, because it will come apart and then you'll have to tear the dash all apart again. So do it right the first time so you don't have to do it again. I was looking at the instructions that come with it. I bought the kit from Crutchfield. I bought my stereo there, and I bought the wiring looms that comes with it. So they give you a chart that shows where each wire goes, and you know, to the power or to the accessory or whatever. And then you look at your one that comes with your stereo and make sure that the wire colors match. It looks like in this case that they do match. If they don't, you have to do one wire at a time and make sure you're connecting them to the correct ones. So I'll just review how to connect the wires together and which way's the best way and which one's the easier way. But just do it right the first time so you don't have to do it over again. So there's two different ways, maybe more than that, ways to connect these two wires together. First, this side, they stripped them, pre-stripped them already, so you just pull off the ends and then you have a bare wire there. The other side, you have to strip the wires. I recommend using a good wire stripper so you don't fray the ends, and using your teeth doesn't really work that well, and I usually find, and using a knife's pretty hard, so just get you a good pair of wire strippers. You can always use them another time in the future. And they call these butt end connectors because you're putting two ends of wires together, butting them together as they call it. So I find for this size of wire you want to use a red because that's the smaller one. Blue ones are too big. The wires will slip out even after you crimp them, and that'd be bad. What we want to do is do this correctly the first time so you won't have problems later on, like I keep on stressing, because once you get the dash all buttoned up, you sure don't want to have to take it apart again. So on this one, you just link the wire across, not too much because you don't want the bare wire to show, and then you just slip it on, and then you use a crimper. There's two different types that I have. I have the one that's the cheaper pair that I used for many years, and it worked fine. And then you can go up to the ratcheting type, and it really crimps down on them. And you can see there's 3 different dots on there. It shows which crimp that you use with it, red, blue, or yellow. Yellow is the biggest. So you can either spring for those or just use the ones I used for years, which is this one, and they work fine. Just make sure you really crimp down on it to make it nice and tight, and then tug on the connection a little bit. Make sure it's not going to slip back out on you. What you can do, and I did this for years, is just fold back the wire and double it up. Strip more than what you would usually do, and then bend the wire over and double it up, and then you'll get a really tight fit inside the connector. You probably it depends on what size of these crimp connectors that you're using now. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to solder them, because I find I like that best on something like this where I have so many wires together. I don't want to get a big old bundle. I did this like 7 years ago on this connection, and it held up fine. You can see it back then they actually labeled each wire. It made it a little bit easier, but it looks like all the wire colors are going to match now. So then try and keep it neat, and I'll show how I solder wires together. It's pretty, everybody does it pretty much the same, but This is the way I've done it for many years, since I was 12 years old. So I'll come back and show that. So now we'll solder these wires together. I use a 30-watt soldering iron. It seems to be pretty multi-purpose for me. I use it the most. Make sure that your tip is clean, nice and shiny. Use a damp paper towel or a sponge or something, and make sure that it's a nice coating of solder on the tip. It's not a brand new tip. I find that I also have to tighten the tip like every time that I heat it up, because it works itself loose from the heating and cooling. What I use is heat shrink tubing to protect the wires after they've been soldered. I use a 1/8 inch. It seems to work from 20 gauge to 14 gauge, and I use it the most, so I buy a quantity of it at a time, and then I use it over the years. After you heat it up with your lighter, it shrinks down to quite a narrow tip, so I find that this works the best. So cut a length previous to when you put it on, slide it over your wire and get it far out of the way from where you're going to heat it up with the soldering iron, or shrink around the wire before you are able to slide it, and it causes problems. Then take your two wires that have been stripped and nice and clean. Clean copper makes it a lot easier to solder, that's for sure. And then make it nice and flat so you don't have frayed ends sticking up. And then bring your soldering iron that's nice and clean and hot. I usually hit it with a little bit of solder first. It makes the connection go easier. And then flow it on. Make it nice and warm, and you'll have a good connection when you have it nice and clean and hot. You don't want cold solder joints, or they won't connect together. So then, that's a nice connection. Make sure that the frayed ends are nice and flat so it doesn't stick through your heat shrink tubing. Make sure that the connection is cool before you slide this on, or it will shrink before you can get it over the connection. So then center it, and all you do is take your cigarette lighter and shrink it down. And that's all there is to it. Only got like 10 more to do. I was noticing that they have on this side, they have a the one that hooks up to the stereo, they have a this joint here, it's meant to be put under a screw on the chassis ground. I'm not going to do that because I haven't had problems with noise in the past. A lot of times, if you don't have good grounds, you can get noise from your alternator into your stereo. I hooked it up just regular on my old stereo, and it worked fine. So what I'll do is I'll cut off this end and just hook it up to the black wire just like this, instead of hooking to the ground. You want good, because I know that the chassis on my stereo is crimped down nice and tight to a metal ground, and it makes all the difference in the world to have the shielding, and it works that way. Another thing I wanted to point out is the mounting bracket on how do you hold your stereo into your car. I'm lucky on this one that it has in the console it has a mounting bracket where I can just directly bolt it to the stereo. Make sure you use the screws that come with the stereo, because they actually have a little chart on the side. It shows how long a screw that you can use. If you use too long a screw, it'll go in and it'll go too far in, and it will short out the stereo on the inside. So use the length that they subscribe, and usually they come with the hopefully they come with the screws, and just do it that way. The other way that they put them in sometimes is they use like a DIN slot with the stereo. It actually comes around the stereo when you get it out of the box, but it slides into this receptacle, and actually locks in there. They give you keys to remove it, to push the tabs out. And what it does is you bend these tabs down or out to go around things that are underneath the dash. I don't really like it, and it's a lot better to do it this way because it's a lot more sturdy. So it depends how your car is set up. If it's too tough, you can always have somebody install for you, but I do it when I can, but just to get the skills of doing it. I've done it for many years, and the stereos have changed over the years, and it seems like it's easier to do, which is better, because you can't get into the dash in a car anymore, not like you used to do in the old days. So I just having a flashback on that. So I don't know if your workbench is as messy as mine, but it seems to always have a bunch of projects on it. So I hope this is helpful to you, and you can always go to my website on different hints and tips. I'll have it listed below. Hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.